2 miles above sea level in the southwestern corner of Colorado, USA, lie the rugged San Juan Mountains. Join me on a two-wheeled adventure as we explore the famous Million Dollar Highway, abandoned mining towns, rugged off-road alpine passes, and sparkling rivers. You'll learn about the construction and history of roads, railroads, and towns people thought were impossible, and how this area has evolved from gold mines to ski slopes. Our journey begins just north of Durango, Colorado, as we travel north on Highway 550, known as the San Juan Skyway Scenic Byway. Also known as the Million Dollar Highway, this road between Durango and Ouray is one of the most dramatic drives or rides in North America. North of Durango, we follow the Animas River and ascend to Craving Pass and then onto Molam Pass. Be sure to check out the roadside displays to learn about the geography and history of these fascinating areas. Highway 550 is open year-round, and in the winter, avalanches are a major problem on this stretch of highway, with over 100 different known avalanche passes crossing Highway 550. Colorado has more avalanche-related deaths than any other state in America. Approaching Silverton on Highway 550, you'll continue to enjoy some of the most dramatic mountain views found anywhere. Although the present-day highway is in excellent condition, the first roads in this area were gravel toll roads that had extraordinarily steep grades, no guardrails, and were only constructed to connect towns like Ouray and Silverton to the remote mining areas. Otto Mears, an entrepreneur and road and railroad builder, was hired to build many of these early roads when local government agencies declared that it was impossible to build roads in the steep and rugged San Juan Mountains. The original inhabitants of Colorado and of the San Juans were the Ute people. Between the 1700s and today, their land has been progressively taken away, first by the Spanish, and then later by American settlers, pioneers, miners, and politicians. Once gold was discovered in the San Juans, the U.S. government, through a series of one-sided treaties, increasingly took control of these areas due to the mineral wealth they contained. I'm here in Silverton, Colorado. This is actually my home base as I make this documentary film. It's a beautiful little town, population somewhere between 500 to 800 people, depending on what census you look at. You know, Silverton's history is, of course, tied to mining, like everything in this area is. You know, it was a silver boom town in the late 19th century. There was gold mining in the area. Everything was always tied to mining. Over the years, as mining kind of went out of fashion, as the economy didn't support that anymore, it really started to depend more on tourism. And now, here we are in 2024, and really for the past, 50 plus years, 100 years almost, it's really about tourism. So in the summer, you have off-roading, you have Jeep clubs, you have motorcycle clubs. I'm actually here at this Moscow Moto Dusty Lizard Adventure Motorcycle Rally, which is really cool. In the winter, the skiing, so Silverton Mountain, Purgatory is not too far from here. Some of the best backcountry, high altitude winter sports in the United States. Really epic for that. Really, really interesting area. This town is close to a lot of the 14,000 foot peaks in the area. It's a access hub for a lot of off-road trails. A lot of you may know Silverton because if you take the Durango Silverton narrow gauge railroad, which is a popular tourist attraction and definitely a must-do activity in the area, you'll end up here in Silverton before you take your ride back to Durango. So Really interesting little town, some beautiful old hotels, and yeah, a wonderful place to check out. If you have the opportunity to stay here, I highly recommend it.
Leaving Silverton now, heading north on the $1 Million Highway between Silverton and Ouray, often considered to be maybe the most scenic part of the highway. And I would argue that this highway is perhaps one of the most beautiful scenic drives in the entire United States. If not the most, then probably in the top 3 or 4 for sure.
So just a few miles out of Silverton on Highway 550 going towards Ouray, you'll reach the turnoff for Ouray Pass, which is behind me. Ouray Pass goes up over the pass, drops down to the highway that connects over to Telluride. So it's an interesting way to get from that highway over to Highway 550. So you could go from here over to Telluride area, or from Telluride back over to the $1 Million Highway. So it's a beautiful ride, pretty challenging. If you're in a Jeep, it's okay. If you're on a motorcycle, use a lot of caution.
When you're ascending Red Mountain Pass, it's hard not to think that this has got to be, you know, one of the best highways in the United States, maybe in the world, for taking a motorcycle ride or just taking a scenic drive. The views are simply incredible. Now, one thing you do need to be mindful of is there will be people pulling trailers and RVs, and this is 10,000 feet elevation plus, so vehicles have a hard time. You know, you have a lot less power. So be mindful, be respectful of folks who maybe can't do the posted speed limit. They're doing their best. You can see some more mining remnant structures down here. They're actually have held up surprisingly well, considering that they're around 130, 140 years old. It's very surprising.
When you're traveling along the $1 Million Highway and anywhere in the San Juan Mountains, you'll start to notice off the highway or off the trail remnants of an era that's long passed by: silver mining, gold mining, copper, tin, other minerals. The whole story, the whole history of why these mountains even have roads is because of mining. You can see here some remnants of an old mining site. These are things that you'll find all throughout the San Juan Mountains. There was a time when silver was very valuable before the government stopped buying it, when the silver prices then crashed, and then that wasn't profitable anymore. So they had to try to figure out other things. But when you see these old structures, really remember that this is an indication of what the history of this area was, and how this whole area was, you know, sort of developed with the road systems and things that we have now. If you see a no trespassing sign like the one you see here, please do respect that and don't trespass in areas. There may be unsafe areas that you don't want to enter and get injured, so please respect that when you see that. When you're just coming over Red Mountain Pass and you're going between Red Mountain Pass and Ouray, you're going to pass several historical mining areas. The area that I've stopped at right now is the area of the Idarado Mine, and it was a very notable mine. They did a lot of lead and zinc and copper, smaller amounts of gold. One of the interesting things about this area behind me is one of the houses, the historic houses they preserved where people used to live. When they worked this mine, it was a very, very active mine relative to others. Some interesting things about the Idarado mines: there are tunnels, so it's interesting. So let me flip this around. So the mining operations were largely kind of over here and behind this little hill here. Here's some of the historic houses. If you look that way, so Telluride is just over these mountains right here. It's only about 6 miles or so as the crow flies, but of course by highway it's a 60-mile drive to get around, unless of course you take one of the very adventurous off-road options to get there. But the tunnels from the Idarado mine extend 5 miles underground. And remember, this is stuff that they did over 100 years ago. They built tunnels that went 5 miles underground from here over to the Pandora mill in that area, which is really near Telluride, to get the ore, to transport things, because it wasn't enough just to get the ore out of the ground. Then you had to get it to where it needed to go. So you had railroads, you had carts, you had transportation issues, you had all these sorts of things that had to happen beyond just getting the ore out of the ground. So it's a very, very fascinating area with a lot of history. And then just down the road from here is the historic mining area of Ironton, which is all this whole area is this Red Mountain Mining District. I believe that's Red Mountain there. And the reason that they call it Red Mountain is because it's rust. Actually, it's oxidized. It's rust. That's actually what it is, because there's so many minerals in this area. If you're lucky enough to ride a dual sport or adventure bike, you can explore some of the lesser known areas, like this kind of jeep road that goes down to the historic old mining town of Ironton, which I'm heading down to right now. If you're riding something like a touring bike, a Harley, a Goldwing, I wouldn't recommend venturing on these roads due to mud and rocks and ruts and other things like that. So if you do, be very, very cautious. But if you have an adventure dual sport bike, you're good to go. So we're here at the historic town site of Ironton, and on this very nice historic sign here, you can read all about the history of the town, which of course was mining. So they talk about, 100 buildings were built in 1 year. The population fluctuated. It supplied the Red Mountain Mining District where we just left. Some interesting things that says, this again talks about the Sherman silver purchase that propped up silver prices, because the government was required to buy certain amounts of silver for currency reasons. And so that propped up the prices. But when that went away, I forget, it was Taft or another president did away with that, silver prices collapsed. And then a lot of places like this just ended up being lost to time, because once the ore price collapsed of what they were mining, there was no reason for people to be out here in this inhospitable, difficult kind of environment. They also talk about how kind of mining rebounded a little bit during the First and Second World War, but it's hard to keep things going. Prices fluctuate. They end up mining some of the stuff out. And now today, it's just the Idarado Mining Company kind of mitigating some of the environmental issues that are ongoing. Now here you can see it looked very different back in the day, because now we have a lot of more tree growth. Logging was associated with mining. Back then, people had a very different perspective on the natural environment. People thought that to use the land, it was silly not to use the land. You cut the trees, you mine the ore, you do everything in pursuit of human progress, and the environment really didn't matter. That was just the reality back then. It wasn't really make them bad. It just was a different perspective, because when you're hungry, you need to provide resources, so that's just the reality of it. So very different town back then than it is now. Very different look with all the regrowth of a lot of the trees. I don't know about you guys, but to me, there's just something magical about the aspen trees, the sound when the wind blows through the trees, and just the peaceful nature of it. It almost makes me want to take a nap. I wish I could have a recording of this as I went to sleep. I think I would sleep really, really well.
So when you see a structure like this on the $1 Million Highway, this is due to avalanches and rock slides. So, there's so much to talk about with the $1 Million Highway. Frankly, it's a miracle that it even exists, and there's so much history here. But avalanches, speaking of rock slides, there's a bunch of rocks on the road, even in the middle of summer, so you got to be mindful of that. This is what many consider to be one of the most spectacular sections of the highway outside of Ouray, the Uncompahgre River Gorge, where you have a river running through that's cut this deep canyon. You have these really steep walls. We get a lot of rocks falling. It's interesting. There are about 100 known avalanche slides on Highway 550 between Durango and Ouray. That's incredible. I mean, think about the amount of work that it takes for them to keep this highway open. Oh, it's so beautiful. To keep this highway open in the wintertime is just heroic with the plows. And a lot of the times when you see there's no guardrail, it's because the snow has to go somewhere. If they put up a big guardrail, it's really difficult for the snow plows to push the snow far enough off the highway, because you get 10, 20, 30 feet of snow building up on these passes in the wintertime. So you got to have a place to put all that snow. But I just like to think back to the early days when Otto Mears, you know, had his toll road going through here, which had 20% grades, and you know, just wasn't even suitable really for automobiles at the time, although people did try. Otto was such an interesting guy. You know, he put the toll booth of his toll road at the narrowest part, somewhere in this section. I don't know exactly where, so people couldn't go around it. So you'd have to pay the toll, and it was really expensive. It was $5, which back in the late 19th century was a lot of money. But what he said was, well, how else are you going to get up to the Red Mountain Mining District or over towards Silverton or any of that? So, you know, eventually there was a road. The government said these roads were too impossible to build. Okay, they're like, nope, not going to do it. Then Otto Mears came in and said, no, we can do it. His company can do it, you know, and he hired people, and they built these toll roads. And eventually there was a road from Ouray, like the one I'm on now. Of course, actually, this is not the road that was back then. This is much better highway that came later, and around 1920s, 30s, that time. There was also a road from Silverton as well over, because Ouray and Silverton were in a competition to connect to the mines and all that stuff and get the railroads going so they could be part of that economy. But that was always kind of the rush, the competition between those two mining towns at either end of the stretch of highway. But when you travel this highway, you know, some people have said it's dangerous. I mean, it's not dangerous unless you just, you know, don't pay attention at all and drive off the edge, but I don't see why you would do that. This is a very difficult off-road trail. I believe that's Poughkeepsie Gulch or Mineral Creek. It's a very difficult trail. I've been on that one before. But this section here, we're getting into, you know, really the beautiful, scenic, dramatic part of the $1 Million Highway in the Uncompahgre River Gorge outside of Ouray. It's interesting, there's an account of one of the first cars to actually get over the steep toll road that used to be here, and I think they had to get horses to help pull the car over some of the steeper sections. There's a lot of interesting stories about that. But, you know, the automobile changed everything, right? Because when automobiles started to come into play, they needed the roads to be less steep, you know, because you couldn't have extreme steep or rutted out terrain. You had to have something more navigable, and you had gravel and dirt roads back then. But the fact that people wanted to come through on cars, that helped build the roads, helped stimulate the economies, and really propelled us out of that kind of mining age into more into the age that we have today with the tourism and things like this. Alright, so as you descend into Ouray on the $1 Million Highway, which many consider to sort of be the the end point of the $1 Million Highway on the north side. Ouray is an interesting town, right? And of course, you guessed it, the history is mostly about the mines. But the town is still thriving pretty well today. It's well known for all the summer tourism, and then winter tourism, but also they have really beautiful hot spring pools here, and like a hot spring kind of area where the public can go. You do have to pay to get in, but I've enjoyed those hot springs. They're very, very nice. My wife and I have stayed here in our RV before. It's a beautiful area to stay. The big mines that you had going out of town here that they were trying to connect to, of course, the Red Mountain Mining District, which we just came from, but also if you go down this valley and up to the left, we're going to do this later in the video, you've got Yankee Boy, and Camp Bird was a really big major one, so they had routes, and there still are routes to this day going into those canyons. So if you take this road up here, I think on the left, I think maybe this next left, we're going to come the other way doing this, but that will take you up to like the Camp Bird mine. You can get to Yankee Boy Basin. You can also end up in Telluride if you go over the very steep, rugged off-road terrain of Imogene Pass. So interesting stuff. Yeah, I think that might be the turnoff there, because it stays on this side of the Uncompahgre River. There's also like this waterfall or viewing area where you can go. I forget the name of it. I'll put it here, but my wife and I visited that before. So Ouray, I mean, you can see, well, you can't really see the waterfalls, up above town. It's a spectacular place. If you have time to spend a day or two here, I highly recommend hanging out here for a day or two and taking in all this town has to offer. And if you have an off-road vehicle, go explore some of the areas outside of town. I should mention that Ouray is named after Chief Ouray of the Utes, and we've talked a little bit about the Utes, the indigenous people, the Indians that this land really belonged to before, of course, United States started to try to take things over because of the mineral wealth that they found. And of course, we kind of know how that story goes all across the United States, but especially across the West. So riding through downtown Ouray, it's a beautiful little old town. A lot of historic buildings, a lot of great little restaurants and hotels in town. Really one of the American West's great towns to come and visit.
All right, I had a beautiful lunch in downtown Ouray. I highly recommend Maggie's Cafe. Amazing burgers and sandwiches there, right on the main road through town. And of course, my wife's name is Maggie, so you have to eat at Maggie's Cafe, right? And I found this beautiful little waterfall kind of out of the way. Behind me here is Red Mountain Creek. I'm in an area called Hendrick Gulch. This is between Ouray and Red Mountain Pass. When you look at the water of Red Mountain Creek, a lot of people think, oh my gosh, it's so polluted. Actually, that's not the case. The color of the water and the rocks is from all the iron and rust deposits up on Red Mountain in that area. So the same reason that the creek is colored this way is the reason that ore prospectors came to this area, because there are all these incredible mineral deposits. So I'm on my way down back towards Silverton. I was going to do Ophir Pass, but then I get to the trailhead for Black Bear Pass, and I've heard that this is closed, but I'm not seeing any signs to that effect. So why don't we go up and see what we find up as we get up towards the top. Maybe there's a gate at the top, but I've never really done I've done part of Black Bear Pass, but I haven't gone down into Silverton. So let's go check this out, because Black Bear Pass is a dramatic view, a dramatic road, and drops into into Telluride, which is what I want, because then I want to go over Imogene Pass back to Ouray through Camp Bird Mine and Yankee Boy.
So I'm going up Black Bear Pass from Highway 550. I did talk to somebody in a Jeep who says, yes, there is a closed gate. So we're not going to be able to drop down the switchbacks into Telluride, but at least we can go up here and kind of check out the view. The trail is, as you can see, you know, pretty pretty rugged. It's not really a problem on this, on the 700 here, but I think on a bigger bike you would have a little bit of a challenge maybe. It is pretty rough and steep, but it's doable. You know, it's doable, just use caution. They did say the views up here were really amazing, so I'm looking forward to that. As you can see, it's already the case that the views are incredible. So, quick little side trip.
This is as far as I got. There is, I don't know if you, it's, you know, this camera's like a wide angle, but there is a closed gate, a locked gate right there. So it looks like the pass is just up there and then it drops down those switchbacks into Telluride. So unfortunately we can't show you that, but there's, YouTube is flooded with videos of Black Bear Pass, blah, 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 dramatic, scary, dangerous. Not really the case. It's just some rock steps and things. It looks scary, but you know, everyone dramatizes YouTube because that's what they think they have to do to get people to click on their videos. But the view from up here, even if you don't go over, is beautiful. You've got these little, I don't know if I should call them glacial, not lakes, but little ponds areas. It seems like glacial valleys to me, that you would have glaciers. Maybe not anymore, but in ancient times, I suppose. But of course, this area in the winter does get extreme levels of snow and ice and things like that. You certainly cannot come up here in the winter. In fact, in the winter, oftentimes even Highway 550, the $1 Million Highway, which is down here below us, you can see the highway way down in the distance. Oftentimes that gets closed for days or even weeks at a time, depending on if they can't get the snow removed. Because you can get 10, 20 feet of snow, even more than that, which is, if you think about how much snow that is, that's really a lot. But you know, the view is inspirational from up here. I don't know, I think we're at somewhere around 11,000 feet, I believe. I could check the GPS there, but really, really fantastic. So Silverton's going to be over that direction. Highway 550 continues through that valley. And then Telluride is just over this mountain. And Ouray, can't really see it, but Ouray is down in there. Whoa, okay. Probably should have turned off my ABS, but oh well. We'll just roll with it. I really gotta say, having this lighter weight adventure bike, you know, this bike is probably around 350 pounds, the way it's set up, maybe 360 with the bags. That makes all the difference in the world, because I ride a lot by myself in these areas. I want something that's not too heavy, that I can pick up or drag out of a thing if I get stuck. It's just less stressful, so much more enjoyable. And really like this 700 because, you know, you've got ABS, you've got traction control settings, you've got, you know, a really smooth engine, great suspension. Fuel range is around 160 miles, so that's pretty decent. You can add more. For a solo kind of backcountry adventure exploration bike, for a lightweight adventure bike, I think this is absolutely the way you should be going, the way you should be looking. It's been a revelation for me after being on the 890s and the T7s and the Tuaregs and the GSs and now all those heavy bikes. This is so much lighter and easier to manage. And everybody's been telling me that ever since I sold that last 690 I had. And guess what? You guys were right, of course. This is the way to go for this kind of riding. For the next part of our journey, we'll travel between Silverton and Animas Forks. On the road, leaving Silverton and on your way to Animas Forks, you'll follow the path of the Animas River, a 125-mile-long river that starts near the ghost town of Animas Forks and goes all the way into northern New Mexico. Translated to English, the Animas River means the River of Souls.
beautiful ride or drive, beautiful canyon, stunning. You will pass by like Eureka. So Eureka is another mining site that was very active at one point. Now you can see some of the remnants here over there. Wow, look at that waterfall. Well, you probably can't see it on this camera, but amazing waterfalls all throughout here. You can see a bunch of mining remnants and old structures through here. Just really takes you back. Oh, there's a fox. There's a fox or a coyote or something. What is that? All right, so if you're gonna do the ride, once you leave Eureka, the road from Eureka to Animas Forks gets a lot more rough and rugged. It's doable on a large adventure bike or a stock 4x4 vehicle or pickup truck or something like that, but be prepared. It is rocky and rough and kind of slow going, especially if you're in a four-wheel vehicle, but it's totally doable. You can see the color of the water in the creek is due to the mineral deposits in the area, so it has a very interesting look to it. See, it's just kind of rocky, but it's not too big of a deal. It's just rough. It's just a rough ride, you know, kind of rattles your feelings out, but that's kind of the story of the entire Alpine Loop and all these roads. It's just kind of a lot of kind of loose, kind of jaggedy rock, so you really can't go that fast, and you're not supposed to go fast either. It's not respectful to other trail users, but just don't go fast. That's my advice. So when you get to this sign, you can see Animas Forks left, go up that way to get to Engineer Pass and Cinnamon Pass, which is kind of the Alpine Loop going clockwise over Cinnamon, down to Lake City, and then counterclockwise back around down Engineer, back to Animas Forks. So let's go up and check out Animas Forks.
So I'm standing in front of one of the historic old structures in the ghost town of Animas Forks. Animas Forks has a really interesting history, and of course, as you expected, it's all about mining. But, you know, so much interesting history with it, because they even brought like an extension of the railroad up from Eureka, where we just were, all the way up this rough, rocky valley up to here to bring the ore down from Animas Forks, down towards Eureka, and then to Silverton, which then it would go even somewhere else. So think about the work involved in getting the ore from a place like this to where it needed to go. You know, in the late 19th century. That's incredible that this kind of stuff even happened. Of course, today Animas Forks is a ghost town. The buildings are, some of the structures are obviously fallen apart due to time. I mean, you have to realize when they built these kinds of things, they really weren't meant to last 100 years, although some of them almost have, with the help of some of the restoration efforts and preservation efforts that local nonprofits and other groups have done. But really, you know, it was kind of like I don't want to say ramshackle, but when the mining towns were built, I mean, it was like, let's get this up quick, because people kind of knew, like, look, you're not going to be here for like 100 years. You just need to do something quick with the resources that you have at the time. Animas Forks was originally called Three Forks because of the three different forks of the Animas River kind of met here, and they go down the canyon and form the Animas River as it goes down through Eureka and towards Silverton. There was a pretty big mining operation here. There was a lot involved with it, and it's cool to kind of go back in time and take a look at this stuff. So also from here in Animas Forks, it's kind of a meeting of the trails. You have trails coming in from like over on like California and Hurricane Pass from that direction, more from like the direction of Ouray and Ironton in that direction. And then going to the east, you have the Alpine Loop, which is Engineer Pass and Cinnamon Pass, which are these up here. So Cinnamon goes up over there. I think Engineer goes up over that way. You can loop around to Lake City. People call it the Alpine Loop, and come back here to Animas Forks. So this area gets a lot of traffic, a lot of visitation, because it's kind of a meeting of the trails in that way. But I highly suggest you take some time to walk around Animas Forks. They do have a little walking tour. Really interesting history. You can see some of the historic buildings, some of which have been preserved. Just respect the structures. They don't want you touching or climbing on anything.
Okay, good morning from day 2 of this expedition. Change of plans. So since I've done Ophir Pass 3 or 4 times already, I am going to head south. Well, I am heading south from Silverton on Highway 550, and we're going to go down to the Purgatory Ski Area, and we're going to take a road called Bolam Pass, which is a little known pass where you can cross over these mountains over to Highway 145 that comes out just north of the town of Rico. So a local who lives in Rico told me about this. He's like, you should go check that out. The cool thing is we're going to get to check out the old mining area of Graysill. The interesting thing about Graysill is that it was used to mine vanadium and uranium, and the minerals from that mine, some of them were used in the creation of the first atomic weapons in the United States. So some very interesting history there. So let's go check out that area on this another gorgeous Colorado day. And we are expecting rain this afternoon, moving in this afternoon and stuff. So I will hope to be back to my home base around, before that rain really sets in. I don't really want to be up at 11,000 feet above tree line during thunderstorms. I've been there, done that, and I don't like that. I don't want to be hit by lightning, and I don't want to be really in a flash flood up on the mountain. So if it starts to cloud up, and that brings me to a point about preparation. If you're going to ride this part of Colorado, especially if you're going to do the dual sport adventures and the off-road, the elevation, so you have to hydrate more. High elevation, your body actually needs more liquid, so you need to hydrate more. If you have a headache or feel dizzy or lightheaded, you're feeling the signs of altitude sickness, and you need to make sure to keep up on electrolytes and hydration, and make sure you're eating nutritious food as well. Thunderstorm safety, like I talked about, don't be up above tree line during a thunderstorm, and be prepared for changing weather. The weather looks good right now. It's 10 in the morning, but by 3 or 4 in the afternoon, it could be black skies, thunderstorms. So the weather in the morning is not an indication of the weather in the afternoon. So check your weather forecast, plan ahead for that, bring your rain gear, whatever you need to do. The weather changes fast in the high mountains of Colorado. This must be it. So Purgatory Ski Area, which is kind of a not too well known of a ski area. And then you go on Hermosa Park Road, and then that's County Road 38, I believe. And then you will hang a left on Road 39. This looks like the right way. And then you'll end up going over Bolam Pass over to Highway 145. So I've got my DMD tablet here navigating me to Bolam Pass so I can find my way there. And let's see what we find. 9 miles from the top of Bolam Pass, according to my GPS. The terrain is very gentle. It's you see a lot of vehicles on this road, side by sides, Jeeps, things like that. Very gentle so far. I've heard that the western side of the pass was much rougher, so we'll find out. The scenery is, it's inspiring and beautiful. It is a little lower elevation feel. You have the trees and the aspens, and it you don't quite have the high epic views of, I don't know, I'm not to the pass yet, so I guess I shouldn't say. But so far, it's just a very scenic ride, albeit there is a lot of traffic. Although today is a Saturday, so as you can see here, you're going to have to be very mindful of other trail users and be respectful of that, because everybody has a right to be here, of course. I talked to a local who was stopped, and he said, yeah, this is kind of a area that the locals know about, and they come here to camp out and ride their quads and fish and hunt and all that stuff. And he's kind of like, hey, what are you doing as an outsider? He was nice, but it was like, I was like, oh yeah, the locals told me about it. So anyway, he was nice and everything. But you can see mountain bikes. I mean, really popular recreation area. All right, looks like we have ourselves a little river crossing here. This should be interesting. It doesn't look too deep, so I'm not too worried about it. Ooh, it is rocky. Always use caution when crossing rivers. It's only about 6 inches deep, so that's just fun. That's not dangerous at all. Got my boots cleaned off. Good amount of switchbacks going up Bolam Pass. Not very challenging so far. Everything would be very friendly to the bigger adventure bikes. A little bit rocky, but pretty easy by Colorado Pass standards. Very beautiful, scenic, but you're in the trees. You're not above tree line. I'm still about maybe 2 miles from the top of the pass, so we'll see if we get to tree line. I think it's over 11,000 feet.
So I stopped at the mining ruins of Graysill. So the fascinating thing about this Graysill mine area is this is what I was talking about with the uranium and the vanadium. So vanadium is an alloy that was used to harden steel, so that was valuable for a certain period of time. But then during the war effort and the developing atomic bombs, and then you had the Atomic Energy Commission come in, and so people wanted to, it was profitable and necessary to go find sources of uranium for the war effort and for the atomic bombs and things like that. So they mined uranium out of this area, and I don't know, I forget the exact specs. It's on the little sign about how much they brought, but they would ship it to Durango, and then there was like a mill that would separate, I think it was like yellow and red or yellow and white. One was like vanadium, one was uranium, and then they'd have to sort of refine that out. So interesting history with that. So, what a rugged and remote place to come to get the ore, to get the uranium and vanadium. But, I mean, look, there's a lot of money involved. Of course, during wartime, the perspective was a lot different as well. And so it was, people were going to do that kind of stuff. But I just imagine getting stuff out of here, especially in the winter. I don't think you could really live here very easily in the winter. There was also hazards with the mining. They talked about radon gas, which is a dangerous thing that you could encounter when you're mining uranium. So interesting history, beautiful, beautiful area.
So this is the top of Bolam Pass, and wow, is it worth the drive to get up here? Really spectacular. I don't know if it comes through on the video, but woo, that is worthwhile. So we're looking north now towards the high mountains, so somewhere past that ridge I think is going to be Ouray Pass. So Silverton is like over on the other side of those mountains there. Ouray is like there. We're going to go down Highway 145 over this way. And wow, so I can kind of show you on the maps, sort of here. So we started in Purgatory, we went up this, now we're like here, and then we're going to drop down over here to Highway 145, go over Lizard Head Pass, and then over into Telluride. Well, I didn't make it. It's starting to rain quite a bit, so I'm gonna have to stop and rearrange some things. Keep dry, put on my rain jacket at least, and just don't want to get soaked and then get cold later. So anyway, Colorado, that's Colorado weather.
So working your way north on Highway 145, you'll go over Lizard Head Pass. Beautiful, scenic motorcycle ride, car drive, one of the best in Colorado, amazing. You'll come to Trout Lake, which is right here behind me. Now, interesting, so Trout Lake is like a little recreation area, very beautiful little lake. Actually looks a little low to me, but I don't really know what I'm looking at. Now, interestingly, Ouray Pass, if you're familiar with that, is on the other side of these mountains here, just on the other side that runs up over this mountain range back over to the $1 Million Highway. Ouray Pass, I featured that in other videos. It's a pretty difficult climb to get up over there. It's a popular route. And Ouray, of course, you guessed it, mining. That's why Ouray was there. And then the passes, were built back in the days, the roads, people had to get things back and forth. I'm just amazed that all those roads are still open. But really beautiful area, Colorado. Stop into this area if you can. Take a ride over Highway 145 if you like street riding. It's really nice. So I stopped for lunch in Mountain Village. So if you come through this area, you've got Telluride and you've got Mountain Village. Mountain Village is a newer town. It's built up on the hill as part of the ski area, and they're all connected by free gondola system. It's pretty cool if you have your family, you want to ride the gondola around. really cool, beautiful towns, both of them. Mountain Home especially is like really high-end area, high-end, hotels. In fact, the nicest resort I've ever been to in my life was here in Mountain Village. I was part of a Ducati event last year. We stayed in a hotel, I think just behind me here. I was like 5-star, was phenomenal. Good restaurants. I like it up here. You have really good views, good place to get lunch, get a sandwich, get refueled. So from here, I'm going to continue my journey down to Telluride, and I'm going to try to go over Imogene Pass. As long as the weather, looks like my weather might hold, so I think we'll be able to make it. I need to get some gas, and then we'll go over the pass.
Other interesting thing about Telluride is they have a commercial airport. It's known for having one of the most difficult and challenging final approaches in North America, I think, because of the steep mountains surrounding the airport. I got to watch some aircraft. Let's see what this says. Got to watch some aircraft going to the airport. That was really cool. So K68, four-wheel drive, high clearance, short wheelbase. EMS response may be limited. Well, hopefully we won't need the EMS response. What do you think? I'm hoping not. But I just can't, the camera just doesn't do it justice, just how beautiful this area, this valley is, with Telluride in this valley. You've got Bridal Veil Falls up there. You've got the ski areas. Telluride is kind of a very nice community, so there's a lot of, just be mindful of local regulations and speed limits and things like that when you go through town. You can see some Jeeps coming down the pass here. So this will take us up to the Yankee, I guess, boy, Yankee girl mines, and Tomboy, no, maybe it's Tomboy, that's it. And then Camp Bird on the other side. So we'll be going over Imogene Pass, which I've never done before, so I'm excited that I'm able to do this. Getting to be kind of a narrow shelf road here with the cliffs. I could reach out and touch the rock walls here, so. This definitely demands your full attention, I'll give you that much. So we're already at 10,300 feet. Wow, spectacular. So it's a little tunnel here going up Imogene Pass. The switchbacks there, that's Black Bear Pass. The switchbacks, that's a huge waterfall. I think it's called Bridal Veil Falls, if I'm right. So I've got a thunderstorm behind me here, thundering pretty good, but I think the weather's going to miss me. Well, it's hard to say. It looks pretty sketchy, honestly. But we're going to try for the pass. We're pretty close. It's just up there, I believe, and then try to duck down the other side. So we'll play it by ear and see how we go. Just use caution. But wow, the views are... If you're afraid of heights, I do not recommend this trail. A little bit stuck here in these loose boulders on the steep hill. I guess I somehow got off the main road and I kind of got the bike stuck trying to get it up through here just to get back to the main road. This is very steep and rugged, I will tell you that. I'm glad I'm on a smaller bike. Almost there. For fuck's sake.
So I'm at about 11,500 feet at Imogene Pass, and I came to this area with all these mining ruins. So I'll try to put here in the text what this area is called, but there's a lot of mining tailings and old structures and things. So it seems like the pass is going to be, it seems almost impossible that that's the road, that it would go up that high, but I guess we do. That looks pretty rugged. The road's already pretty rugged, honestly. But there are Jeeps out here and other people, so I don't feel too isolated or too worried about it. You got a nosebleed. I don't know why that is. So, you know, I like to really follow the weather. So see, I use my radar app. So on my phone here, I can see, here's Telluride here. Here's the line of storms that's west of Telluride, thunderstorms, and I'm kind of here. So I feel like it's just skirting by to my west, but that could change at any minute. So a little bit nervous about that, but something to keep track of. Ooh, this is a real adventure here. This Imogene Pass is no joke if you're going to come here. Whew, she is steep and loose, rocky. We're at 12,500 feet right now, and I'm just trying to get over the top of this pass. Oh! Woo-wee! You! This is the first time I actually felt my bike kind of losing some power. I don't know if it's the altitude or if I'm overheating my clutch or what, or maybe my traction control, I don't really know. I have the off-road traction control engaged because I like having it. Looks like we got ourselves a switch back here. Ooh, doggy. Go, 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 go. Oh my word. That's incredible. Oh, I can see another motorcycle down there. There's a Jeep, red Jeep Gladiator, and there's a bike behind him, so I'm not alone. But look at that. That is simply outrageous. Simply outrageous. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. We're almost there. Ah, get emotional. Yoo-hoo! Oh my God. 13,000 feet, baby! Oh my God. Yeah! Oh, sorry, I'm just emotional. This is so epic. This is so incredibly epic up here. I just can't even tell you. If you have the chance to do this, I mean, don't be like me. Don't do it by yourself. But man, this is so phenomenal. Oh my God. Just when you think it's going to storm, then the sun comes out, you know? That's Colorado for you. Those storms are still over there yet, over yonder, and or yonder that way. That's Ouray, somewhere down, way the heck down in there. Camp Bird Mine is down there. Now we're gonna go down this Imogene Pass. Thank God we're gonna go downhill now. I'm spent from going uphill, holy moly. And then you got, I don't know why I have an accent all of a sudden, but then you got Telluride down that way. Is that the airport? I don't know. Anyway, you can see that line of storm still over that way. I think we're gonna be okay, but it looks like pretty like it's gonna storm in the next, day. I don't know what this old structure used to be. Good, how are you?
Good.
How's your ride?
So far, so good.
Yeah, that's pretty rocky coming up.
The weather's holding up.
I know, I was a little worried about the weather.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance, but...
Well, it seems to be just that way, just west of us, but... Because I have saw the...
Where we're going.
Yeah. Okay, so right on the northern side of, what is this called? Imogene Pass. Some pretty good, like, little rock steps and pretty good hill climb right there. I think that'd be the toughest part. So I think it's probably easier the way I came up from Telluride. If you come up from Ouray, you're gonna have to go up that kind of obstacle right there. I think that could be a little bit tougher. Ooh, baby. Whoa, oh. Okay. Now this would be, I would not want to come up this. There's no way. This is pretty sketchy just going down. Holy oh! I have very little traction very little braking traction here. That is steep. I would not go up that. This is attention getting for sure. Woo! I'm so glad I came the way I did and didn't try to go up that way. More dramatic rock terrain, and you can see down below me here, I think we're getting into that Camp Bird Mine kind of area. More kind of pretty steep hills here. You know, this 690 motor doesn't really have very good engine braking, and just wants to go fast downhill, even in first gear. Way out in Colorado, in the Camp Bird Mine, down deep in the darkness on level 9. Actual song sung about Camp Bird Mine. Reading off my notes here, behind me are some of the remnants of a very productive old gold mine, as the thunder is in the background here. I'm getting chased out of here by the weather. Camp Bird Mine, very productive. In today's dollars, there was almost $2 billion, not million, billion dollars worth of gold. Today's prices pulled out of this mining area. Astonishing, really astonishing. There's some old buildings still intact, some remnants you can see. Interesting thing about this, so the owner eventually sold the mine, and his daughter, I guess, got a bunch of the money. His daughter bought the Hope Diamond, if you're familiar with what that is. So that's pretty interesting. So definitely a lot of money involved here. They named Camp Bird Mine because they think after the birds that would be in the area, they said it was gray jays, and they would eat miners' lunches while they were, trying to have their lunch. So Camp Bird, I guess that's what it got called. So I was up at the high country up on the pass there, and I kept hearing a bird chirping sound, but it wasn't a bird, it was the marmots. So anyway, maybe they should have called it Camp Marmot or Marmot Mine, but I don't know. But really interesting, a lot of history in this area. I need to get back towards camp because the weather is closing in and it is already 5 o'clock. So I still have a ways to go.
Oh, it's a little bit deeper.
Man, before I get back to Silverton and kind of wrap up my adventure, just taking a minute to kind of collect my thoughts down by the river here outside of Silverton and just reflect on the past 2 days and how grateful I am to be able to have these kinds of experiences and how grateful I am that these kinds of places exist for us to explore. Some people live in parts of the world where public lands just are not a thing and you can't do this kind of stuff. We are so fortunate and we should not take it for granted, the kind of access we have to areas like this in the United States. And I have to call out Colorado especially. It's just something about Colorado. It is so special.